Hey everybody, welcome to the Gedunk. I'm Josh.
And I'm Billy.
And today we're going to be reviewing A Quiet Place.
And why are we doing that, Josh? In preparation for A Quiet Place 2, coming out Memorial Day weekend.
Oh yeah. Alright, so A Quiet Place. Billy, who's in this movie?
Alright, so you got John Krasinski and Emily Blunt.
Love him from The Office, Jim from The Office, and Emily Blunt from Mary Poppins. I really liked her in Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, see, I never did see Edge of Tomorrow. But,
really?
Yeah, but
Man, that's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, I definitely have to check that one out. But yeah, I did like it. Jim obviously is fantastic in The Office. You know, does a great job as Jack Ryan. So, and with this one, this is his first time directing a movie. This is his directorial debut, right? And I believe he has writing credits on it as well. So, I'll say he did a really good job, for his first time directing a movie.
Yeah. So what are we dealing with here? Are we dealing with aliens, creatures? What are we talking about?
Right, well, that's the thing. We don't know, right? The movie never tells you what you're dealing with or what the threat is. You see it and you understand it's some kind of crazy creature, but you don't know if it's an alien or if it's some kind of creatures that came underground or if a meteorite struck the earth. And the movie never tells you where these things came from.
They don't go in the background of these creatures very much, and what you do get is normally from like news clippings or something kind of explaining.
Exactly. There was some kind of explosion. Something we know something bad happened, and then the world basically went to crap in a matter of days, right?
I kind of like that little bit of a mystery where they don't concentrate on that, and the movie's not really about them.
Exactly. So, and the movie really just revolves around this one family, right? You got John and Emily, and they're a married couple in the movie, just like they are in real life.
I don't even think they give these family names in this. I mean, I think you might see a mailbox that says the Abbott family. So they're the Abbott family, but because the movie is so quiet and things like that, they're not even like calling people out by their name.
Right, they might mention a name or two here and there, but for the most part, you're right. There really is no names being used. One cool aspect of this movie, I think, is the fact that let's talk about how these aliens or creatures or whatever they are work, right? So their eyesight, they're basically blind, right? When we learn that in the movie, they're basically blind and they can hear from like miles away. So we know that humanity, in order to survive at this point, if you want to survive, you have to be as quiet as you can, right? So, we know, and one thing that that is pretty cool the way they tied into this movie is there's not really a lot of talking going on, right? Most of it's sign language. The majority of this movie is sign language, so it's dubbed, it shows you subtitles of what they're saying. The way this, family portrays this family as being survivors is the fact that, their oldest daughter looks like she's around 12 and she's deaf, right? So, you get this deaf girl, and so the family already knew sign language. So going into this epidemic, they already had a leg up over others, I feel, because of the fact that they already knew sign language, so they've got a daughter who's deaf.
And I like that aspect. It gives them credibility as to why they would be able to make it further than like some other people, because they're already used to communicating through sign language versus speaking and things like that.
Absolutely. And another aspect I really like about this movie is the fact that, that it just gives you that feel of desolation and loneliness, right? Like, when the movie starts out, it starts out very Walking Dead-ish, it just shows you this empty town, right? And then, and the family is in this little convenience store, and they're trying to find medicine for their son who's sick, and, and you can just see the kind of look of despair and the look of kind of intent on them, like they're ready to just get what they got to get and get out of here, right? Because, you could tell that there's real danger lurking out there.
Yeah, I really think that's a huge highlight to this. The environment that they created is really suspenseful. It was filmed beautifully, and you can kind of just like feel that tension, especially when these creatures are close by where you don't want to make any kind of sound. It was just brilliantly done.
Absolutely. And the attention to detail they put in this movie, the fact that, first of all, they're all barefoot, right? And I believe the movie picks up, I think it says like day 79 when the event happened, right? So I think we're starting around day 79, and of course, and everybody's barefoot because, shoes or flip-flops or anything like that is going to make noise. So they're walking around completely barefoot, no matter where they're at. They've so all the trails around their house, they've actually lined with sand. So they've created these walkways where they're going to walk to and from places around their house, and they've lined it with sand, right? Number one, probably because it's better on their feet, but number two, because, when you're walking on sand, it's pretty quiet. So I really like that attention to detail, or even inside the house in certain areas, how they, it's all hardwood floors, so how they put paint marks over where they need to step where the wood doesn't creak. So that kind of attention to detail was outstanding, and just showing how, intent these people are about staying alive and about doing everything they can to make sure that, they're not going to make any noise to bring these things to them, right?
That was a big highlight for me. I mean, they go as far as like when they're in their house, they're playing Monopoly. They're like using cotton balls or something like that to move the pieces around. So even like the metal pieces that come with the game don't make any noise. So they're just being extra cautious as much as they can, trying to not make any noise whatsoever.
No, absolutely. But then, of course, that kind of, for me, is kind of a downfall for certain aspects of the movie as well, right? For instance, they're so quiet and so cautious in the beginning. And then all of a sudden, around the middle, a little later in the movie, that kind of goes out the window, right? And granted, the mother's pregnant, she's close to giving birth, so you give her a little bit of leeway here. But, she's going down into the basement to do laundry, and of course she's washing laundry by hand, right? There's no, they're not using loud, washing machines, dryers, anything like that. It's all washed by hand, hang dry, all that. But she's walking back up the basement stairs, and there's that scene where she catches her laundry bag on the nail, right? So she catches the laundry bag on this nail, which, first of all, the nail is like in the center of one of the steps, and it was hammered up, and then of course it's bent in. But there's nothing it's connected to. So who on earth just hammers a nail up in the middle of the step? I have no idea.
That is an odd scene because when you look at the nail, there's no purpose for that nail being there. The nail's like not holding anything in place underneath the step or anything like that. So it's just like you can tell someone looked at the steps and go, let's put a nail right here because that's going to complicate this and someone's going to step on it and make a noise.
Yeah, exactly. So as I was saying, she's coming up these stairs, and as cautious and as careful they are with everything they do, everything's detailed because they know they got to be quiet. She catches her laundry bag on this nail, and instead of bending down to take the thing off, she just starts yanking and yanking and yanking, right? So you automatically know what's going to happen. Like, okay, this nail's going to come up. And sure enough, it does. And you got like this 2-inch nail just sticking up out of the center of the step. And, and of course, they're setting it up for somebody to step on, right?
And this nail is in the middle of one of the little white paint marks that they've put down to let you know, like, the step won't creak at this exact spot.
Exactly. So they know the nail's there. Exactly.
They should, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, then there's this scene where the father takes the kid down to the river where he's going to show him where they catch the fish and everything like that. And he also brings them to this waterfall where he speaks to the kid, and the kid's all surprised, and he's trying to say, like, no, it's okay because the waterfall is louder than their voice, so they can actually talk here. And that's a cool scene and everything, but that kind of like broke the movie for me a little bit because, the mom's pregnant, and they're trying to have this baby in the house when you just showed me a scene of this waterfall area where you can scream as loud as you want. And they were screaming at this part.
Absolutely.
So to me, it's like, why wouldn't you take the mother there to have the child?
Right.
Because then you don't have to worry about anything.
No, I agree. That part kind of threw me off some too. Because they made it very clear that, that there's certain noises that are constant that these creatures just ignore them, right? They're used to hearing that noise now. It doesn't bother them, so they're not even going to bother coming over. So if you've got a stream that's flowing and it's loud that way because of the waterfall, why wouldn't you try to build some kind of shelter around that and just stay there, like you said, right? Because at that point, they're not. You can even talk. You can probably talk in the house at that point, or in your, or in the shelter, or whatever kind of little structure you can build there for the mom to have the child there, because they're not going to hear it anyway.
Exactly, and these creatures also, like, if you make any kind of sound, it appears they could be like miles away, hear that, and they're going to come charging at you. But when they're in the same room as someone, they can't hear like a heartbeat, which we know we can through ultrasound, something like that. So if their hearing is that good, you'd probably expect them to hear like breathing sounds, heartbeats, and all that kind of stuff. And
right, exactly.
that stuff's kind of ignored.
Yeah, it's totally ignored in the movie, and even when the mom's hiding at one point, breathing heavy, and the thing doesn't hear her. Right, and then the other thing I had kind of a little bit of problem with the movie is is they make it very clear that these things are blind, right? They've got it written down on their little board saying what we know about the creatures. They portray it with the creatures. You can even see that they're making their movements based on what they hear. So there's one scene in the movie where the mom's hiding upstairs, she's getting ready to give birth, and the creature's like, okay, I hear something upstairs. So he walks right up to the stairs and just grabs the banister, right? Like he knew it was there. It's like, hold on now, these things are blind. How's this thing just reaching out and grabbing this banister? Like he just knew it just had to be there and just walked right up the stairs. So that kind of threw me off a little bit too with that.
Yeah, and obviously we're nitpicking a little bit here, and those scenes like that didn't really bother me too much. The nail didn't even really bother me, but the waterfall one just, to me, just made it made too much sense to bring the kid there to have it, and I had a hard time getting past that one personally for me.
No, absolutely. But, another thing I liked about the movie, there were a lot of good jump scares in it, because this really isn't a horror movie, and it's definitely more of a suspense thriller.
Yeah, but there's like 5 good jump scares.
There's like 5 or 6, absolutely. There's a good amount of jump scares in it, and, and the movie for a movie that has no talking in it, and no, they did a great job with the sound, right? I mean, just the way they did the sound in this movie for certain scenes was outstanding. The acting was phenomenal. These people who aren't speaking, but they're just portraying with their emotions, their emotions, their facial features, all that. They did an outstanding job. The kids, John and Emily did awesome with it. I was very impressed with how well this movie was put together.
Yeah, the acting was phenomenal for lack of voice and dialogue and stuff like that, because all the emotion still comes through, and it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, overall, I thought it was a great movie. There were some issues in it that I had that we talked about, but again...
What do you think about the creatures in this movie?
The creatures I thought were pretty cool. They kind of were an alien meets velociraptor kind of creatures, right? Meets Venom, right? So they got those, giant Venom teeth. They sound exactly like velociraptors, but they look kind of like aliens. So they did kind of a good job mixing up, how they wanted to design these creatures and make them look right, which again makes it kind of even harder to figure out what they are, right? So you really have no idea what these things are.
Yeah, they don't seem like they're smart or anything like that. They just seem like they're these brute creatures that react to the sound and have these, razor sharp claws or whatever they have that'll slice almost through anything.
Exactly.
And they have like armor on their body that can, I guess, supposedly withstand like a bullet or something like that.
Right.
They don't get too into, but...
No, exactly. But what they do show is, at times... These things do have vulnerabilities, right? So when they're getting ready to eat you, their face opens up. And,
I don't know if they eat people.
Well, when they get ready to kill you.
And I thought that would be cool too, because like they're like killing people for the sake of eating them, but
right, but it doesn't
they don't look like
that.
they ever eat anything.
No, you're right. It doesn't show whether they're actually eating the people or not. It shows them kill them, but then it never shows
Well, there's that one scene where they come upon that woman and she's just sliced up.
That's
she's
true.
Kind of like eaten, and I have an issue with that scene too, because that happens shortly after the waterfall. They stumble upon this guy who's like standing over what appears to be like his dead wife, and the dad character sees him in his mentally unstable state, and it looks like he's going to like do something rash and like commit suicide to one of these creatures. So they make eye contact, and the dad is kind of like giving him the shush sign, like don't do it, because he sees he's getting ready to yell. And that scene's kind of odd too, because it looks like that those two characters have never met, even though like it was on the way back from the river and the waterfall where they get their food. And you would think like if he goes there fairly often, he would take a similar route, just because he knows the layout of the area and to be as careful as possible.
Absolutely, and I agree. Because it definitely looks like this. Because with all the detail they did to putting the sand down on different routes they take and all that, they know exactly where they're going, how they're getting there, how they're getting home. So you're right. When they've got to pass that house every single time on that same route, right? So it did seem weird that he didn't know this old man and the wife. But you could definitely tell when they were looking at each other that they didn't recognize each other, right? Well, and then the fact, like you said, the old man, obviously, look like they're probably in their 70s or something. They're pretty old, His wife just died, so I get it. He doesn't want to go on. But at the same time, you got John Krasinski and his kids standing there. And, the old man can't wait until they walk out before he screams. It's like, come on now, I didn't quite get that, I know why they did it for the movie, right? For the drama, the thriller aspect of it, but in reality, I didn't necessarily agree with that part. So yeah, but other than nitpicky stuff like that, it was definitely enjoyable.
I tell you, birds must drive these creatures like crazy.
Yeah,
because they're like making noises and they probably can't get to them.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and it never shows stuff like that.
Cicada season, oh boy, it must drive these things crazy.
Right, that'd be another great aspect, right? To throw something like that in there, right? Throwing the birds in there, but for what they had in it, it was good, right? I'm definitely glad I watched it for sure. So
and I saw this movie in theater. This came out in 2018, and it was an awesome experience, because like the movie is so quiet, it kind of like gets you involved, where like if you're trying to like open a candy wrapper or something, you don't want to like make any noise, so it's like a really cool aspect which you don't really get at home. So this is going to be like the second movie is probably going to be like one of the first movies that like comes back in theaters, that's kind of made for theaters where you want to see it. So
absolutely. So what we do know about the second movie, just from watching the trailer, we know that it looks like it picks up where the first movie left off, and then you kind of see the family, but then it starts showing flashbacks into what happened prior to all this stuff happening, right? So it looks like we're finally going to get a good kind of understanding of what these things are, where they came from, what event happened that brought them to the earth, right? So definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they take it. I just hope they don't get like wrapped up into like bigger is better, so we need to make this one more action intensive, and you lose some of that suspense that this first movie had, because that's one of the best parts I thought about this movie.
No, I agree. I mean, this first movie, you had maybe a total of 6 people throughout the whole movie, right? Whereas the trailer definitely shows a lot more people. So it looks like they're trying to get more people involved and, more activity. And I agree with you. That's not always the better thing. And that could actually ruin a movie, right? So hopefully that doesn't happen with this. And, and they still stick with that quiet aspect of the movie, right? Because, and I think it would ruin it if they start getting loud all of a sudden, or a lot more noise and stuff going on in the next movie, where they definitely need to kind of stick with that theme of, hey, you got to be quiet. And honestly, that just adds more to the thrill of the movie, when you don't see the stuff coming.
Yeah, and without getting into heavy spoilers, there's like real skin in the game in this one as well. Like there is a body count, so it draws you in with that as well, and it like opens up pretty strong with that. And then 3/4 of the way through, there's another scene that has a lot of weight to it, which I thought was pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, the last issue I had with the movie is, as we were talking about earlier, so these things do have some vulnerabilities. You see when they're getting ready to kill somebody with their mouth, their whole face opens up, and you can see the fleshy spots on their face, right? When they're trying to hear really well, their ear canal opens, and there's a huge fleshy area in the ear canal. So it gives you the idea that, okay, these things have vulnerabilities. So it kind of makes you wonder why on earth, the militaries of the world couldn't, take these things out, pretty easily.
Yeah, it seemed pretty obvious that these things are highly reactive to sound, so you probably should concentrate and explore things related to that. And you would think, like, with the might of the military and everything else, that they'd be able to figure this stuff out. All right, Billy, what did you think about this movie? What would you rate it?
Josh, I love this movie. I definitely rated this highly recommendable. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, you definitely want to check this movie out. I wish I'd have seen it on the big screen like you did. I mean, all the jump scares, the way they did the music, just the fear on people's faces was phenomenal. So aside from the few hiccups that we talked about, they're maybe nitpicky, excellent movie. Highly recommend anybody watching this movie, especially if you plan on seeing the second one, which I absolutely highly recommend you do, because we're going to be reviewing it. What about you, Josh?
I'm right there with you. As you said, I saw it in theater. It was definitely like a full-price movie. Since it's coming out in video, I've owned it. I've seen it several times since then. It's always good to watch. Highly recommend.
Absolutely. All right, everybody, thank you again for checking out another episode of the Gedunk. Absolutely want to go watch the next one on Memorial Day weekend, this weekend coming up. So check it out. Let us know what you think about it, and be prepared for our next review. Thanks again.
See you guys.